Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. Today we're doing something a little different yet again. This one, we're doing some black powder, not Pyrex. This stuff is great. I like Pyrex. It does have a place. A lot of people don't like Pyrex, but it's easy to get. It's available almost anywhere. It's not in the same classification as black powder. This stuff is, well, it's a substitute for black powder, and it is some actually pretty good stuff. But what it is not is legitimate black powder. This is GoX, an old can of it from, actually don't know when, but this is a metal can. They're in plastic bottles now. But that is 3F GoX, and it is real black powder. Now aside from the GoX, I also have my homemade black powder. This is using willow, and we have a 77, 13, and 10 ratio. I got that from Jake at the Everything Black Powder YouTube channel. That's where I learned to make my homemade black powder. I highly suggest you go check out Jake at Everything Black Powder here on YouTube. A lot of great information. He uses a lot of different firearms, flintlocks, modern stuff. He does stuff with cartridges, obviously muzzle loaders, shotguns even. So yeah, you guys go check him out. Like I said, a lot of great information. Great teacher too. This is actually 2F willow. I have some 3F willow over there. This is 2F oak charcoal that I don't really use in firearms anymore. I use this mainly for blanks, because blanks are a lot of fun to shoot and they're really loud. This one is 3F oak charcoal. I also pretty much just use it for blanks, or I just, sometimes I get bored and like making huge smoke clouds outside. The only Pyrex that I have experience with is the RS, which is the 2F equivalent, you know, to black powder. I have heard that Hodgdon's 777 is really good stuff. The Pyrex Select is really good stuff, but again, I have no experience with those, so I can't answer any questions that you guys may have about those powders, but I can tell you that the Pyrex RS is actually pretty good stuff. Produces high velocities, not as high as GoX or stuff like Swiss. My powder here, which is what I'll be using today, does not produce velocities as high as the Pyrex. It's usually about 100 to 50 to 100 feet per second slower than Pyrex, and it's about 200 feet a second slower than GoX. Now that's because I don't have a way to corn my black powder, which is a process of highly compressing it and then using some sort of grinder to grind it into finer pieces and then sifting it out, you know, to get your 3F, 2F, 1F, even 4F. So what I do is the simplest method. I just take my, you know, dry, completed powder, you know, tumbled, all that good stuff, and mix it with a little bit of water into a dough, like a really dense dough, and then I compress that between two pieces of board, or I just take a rubber mallet, squish it between a lot of layers of paper towel to get as much moisture out as possible, and then I grate it over a fine cheese grater into basically grains, I guess you would call it, and then I let that dry for 2 days in the sun, and then I sift it for size. And after sifting it to get your different sizes out, you can throw it back in your tumbler without any media and just let it go for a few hours. That will polish the powder, round over the edges and stuff, and you can put in a little bit of graphite if you want to. I haven't done that, so I cannot comment about anything that it may do to the powder. As far as making it a better product, I don't know. Those are questions for Jake over at Everything Black Powder. So anyway, back to the hauls. These are Federal Gold Medal Grands. I got these early last year at a sporting goods store near me. These are new production. These are not old shells. You can actually still buy these right now. Federal are making them as of 2023. They're loaded with 1 1/8 ounce of, well, these were 7.5 shot, 2 3/4 inch, of course, 70 millimeter hull, all that good stuff. This was the 3 dram equivalent, you know, box. This hull has already been deprimed and resized, but just for demonstration purposes, let's pretend there's a primer in there, spent primer. This is a once fired hull. Slide your ring, it comes with the reload all over your hull, and I apologize if it's going to be hard to see this, but first station deprimes and resizes. I actually need to get that a little bit more. I'm standing at the press sideways, so it's kind of awkward to use. So you need to make sure the ring is flush with the brass, and that got it. If that had a primer in it, that would have kicked the primer out. Now we need to reprime and get the ring back off the hull. I'm just using a Shadot primer, CX2000. You can find these pretty much, well, a few places on the internet, not pretty much anywhere, like I was going to say. Okay, so we have our hull deprimed and resized. Now, I did take some paraffin wax, and I re-waxed this just one time because the paper was a little bit, well, you can see the difference here, I think. This one has not been waxed. The paper was just a little bit, you know, frayed, I guess is the word for it. So I dipped it in paraffin wax and got it looking good again. Again, I'm using my homemade black powder. This is 2F Willow. 90 grains of it. I have a powder measure here. If you're loading black powder, you really should have a powder measure, but you don't absolutely need one. Generally, black powder on a scale is very close to what it would be if you put it in the measure. 90 grains is very close to 90 grains on the scale. But this is 90 grains of my homemade powder. It's a nice middle of the road charge. You can go heavier, you can go lighter. Dump that right into your hull. Now we have 90 grains of black powder. So next you'll need a nitro card, or in this case this is just a 12 gauge overshot card, 70 thousandths. That's what I use. You can use pretty much any thickness you want depending on how heavy or light you want your payload to be and your powder charge. I'm using 90 grains here, and this 70 thou overshot card or a nitro card will allow for up to 1.5 ounces a shot in a 2 3/4 inch shell. To do this, you just slide it up in your wad guide. You can do this by hand, but this just makes it easier. And nitro card is now inside the hull. Now you want to add some compression, and there's two ways to do that. The way that I don't really like to do it is using the primer seating punch on your press. But instead, the way I like to do it is I have a 5/8 inch wad tamper. It actually fits these hulls pretty well. It fits a 16 gauge brand new hull like a glove. It's a little bit small for 12 gauge, but it does fit the once fireds because, you know, the crimp is tapered in a little bit pretty well. So add some compression to the powder like that. You don't want to add a ton, but some compression. See, we have a lot of room in there. Next, I'm just taking a 20 gauge 1/2 inch fiber cushion wad, and I'm just smashing it right like this. Just smashing it, tear it up. What I do is I just break it up and drop it right into the hull. Use the wad tamper to make that flat in there. I just smashed my finger, and I think you guys saw that. That's okay. But you're now flat in there. You can load buckshot, slug, birdshot, whatever you want. I'm using double-aught buck here. Something I like to do personally is taking another one of those nitro cards or overshot cards and laying that on top of the fiber cushion wad. That way the pellets have no chance of embedding into the fiber cushion wad. Generally that doesn't happen with buckshot, but it can happen with slugs and birdshot, so I just like to put another nitro card over that fiber cushion wad. We're using my powder coated, hard cast, tumbled, polished, all that good stuff, double-aught buck. Mixture of pink, green, blue, and unpowder coated. It's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 12 pellets of double-aught buck comes up right to where it needs to be for a good crimp. This is 1.5 ounce load. Backstation of the reload all. Here's your 6-point crimp. You want the point of the crimp facing you. Alright. Fairly decent crimp on it. Sometimes these paper hulls like to create a little dome shape in the middle. That's okay. They don't come back open. I actually have one, let's see, right here. There's a good example of that. That one. It's been like that for a couple days. Hasn't come back open. I believe this one, yeah, this one's even worse. but it is okay. They do not come back open. There's one more thing we can do to this to pretty it up just a little bit, and that is, let me get you over here. I have a taper die on this press. That'll just put a slot taper on the end of the hull. You guys can see it. Shows up really well in these papers. Not bad. Generally, these paper hulls actually crimp really well, just like your plastic hulls do, but every once in a while you'll get one that likes to create a dome shape. Just wanted to mention real quick, we do have a Patreon. If you guys want to go check that out, it's as low as $1 a month, and every penny we get goes right back into the channel. A link to that will be in the description below. You get early access to content, range videos, and these included. Sometimes range videos are 2 to 3 weeks out, but on Patreon, you get them as soon as we get them edited and uploaded. Now, contrary to popular belief, you can actually use plastic wads in black powder loads. Now, there's 2 ways of doing it, actually 3. You can load this right over the powder. You can take one of those really thin nitro cards or overshot cards you guys saw me use a second ago and separate the powder and the wad. You can do it that way. Or you can do it sort of a mix between, I guess using one of these would be a mix of an old school and classic load, but take the nitro card and fiber cushion and get rid of the bottom half of the wad and only use the shot cup on top. That will improve patterns just a little bit in your old guns if you shoot these in old guns. We'll just be shooting these out of my Stevens single shot 12 gauge made in around 1911. It is a smokeless powder gun, but sometimes we like shooting black powder in it and Josh's. His is a Riverside, but it's the same gun. Now, some people will tell you never to use a plastic wad over black powder because the heat from it can melt the plastic and you get plastic residue in your barrel. But I can tell you guys right now, I have never experienced that, and we've shot quite a bit of black powder and Pyrex. Homemade powder, GoX, Pyrex, we've never had plastic hull melt inside the barrel. I don't know if that's absolutely 100% true or not, but I can at least tell you that it's never happened to us. Why don't we go ahead and load this hull with a plastic wad? It's already been deprimed, resized, and reprimed. So again, use 90 grains of my 2F Willow black powder. Willow is the wood it's made with, if you didn't know. If you're new to the black powder world, or just don't really know anything about it, 90 grains sounds like a lot of powder, and that's because it is, but black powder does not behave like smokeless at all. Alright, so now we have our 90 grains of black powder. We're using the Claybuster CB 1138 wad. Right over top of the powder. I'll show you guys how this will work in just a second. You want to add some heavy compression to that to force that gas skirt around the wad to go around the powder, compress that wad until we hear no more powder rattle, and the wad is pretty deep in there. We can probably get 1 3/8 ounces if we're lucky in here, but it looks like 1 1/4 ounces would be the optimal payload weight for this load. And of course, if you want to, you can add buffer to your black powder loads. I use Ballistic Products Original, mix number 47, or ITX buffer. Use them all interchangeably. But I'm not adding buffer to these loads because it's just black powder, and we will be shooting these at close range. I have 1 1/4 ounces. It looks like it's going to be perfect height for a crimp. By close range, I meant about 25, maybe 30 yards. It is black powder, and they are conventionally loaded, meaning no shot cup aside from this load right here, and I think one other that I used a shot cup on. But yeah, 30 yards is a good range for black powder shotgun loads. Get this pinched in a little bit. This is another 6-point crimp. Want it facing that way. Here's the pre-crimp. Looks cool. A little bit more. This one's wanting to do that dome-shaped thing again. No issue though. I actually have this 10 gauge 3D printed kit for the reload all here. Now this might work on 12 gauge, but it might flare the hull mouth out way too wide. But we're gonna give it a shot just to see if we can't fix that dome. Yeah, so I will be doing a full video on this kit soon. But let's see what it does to a 12 gauge shell. well, it didn't flare it out too bad. And it did fix our dome shape. That's pretty cool. That worked out pretty well. Alright, just because why not, let's use a brand new primed clear Fiocchi 2 3/4 inch shell. Again, 90 grains of my black powder. Tap that down. Right in the hole. That comes up to right there. Fills the hole about, oh, I want to say a third of the way. But you guys will see once we get this nitro card on here, or overshot card, that it will compress. Using the wad tamper. See the level we're at right now? About an inch from the base wad right here. After we compress it, we'll get a whole lot more room. Again, you don't want to add a ton of compression, but you want to add enough to get some compression going on with the powder. But now we're about 3/4 of an inch from the base wad. Got us a lot more room in there. Now, the 20 gauge fiber cushion wad that I mentioned earlier, just tear it up and drop it in there. And then we will use, again, the wad tamper to make that flat. Don't smash your finger doing this like I did, because that does hurt. Nice and flat in there. This time, I'm not going to use, I did want to use it, but I'm not going to use it this time. 12 pellets of double aught buck, that was loud. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And thin piece of overshot card on top. Probably doesn't need it, but I'm going to use it anyway. 6 or 8 point crimp, because this is a new hole. Just whatever you prefer. As always, I like to pull down for the crimp multiple times just to get it more uniform all the way around. You guys can see that looks pretty good. Try to show you here. There you go. Looks pretty good. I did a 6 point, obviously. Tell me if you've ever seen a black powder load that looks like that. All them colorful pellets in there. Obviously, it's black powder. Man, that's just funny. That's an 1.5 ounce load, 12 pellets, a double aught buck. Should be a quite a thumper. We'll go ahead and taper that load too. I know these clear holes are just impossible to see on camera, but I think you guys can see the taper. If you guys can't find black powder, Pyrex or any other substitute will work just fine. From what I've seen and understand, Pyrex don't really work in flintlocks all that well. You get hang fires really bad. But for anything that I can think of off the top of my head, Pyrex is generally pretty good for. You can use it in pretty much any black powder firearm. I wouldn't personally put it through, you know, your really old desirable firearms. I would just stick to black powder for those if you can find it, but Pyrex will make do in a pinch, I suppose. For modern guns, like CVAs, stuff like that, synthetic stock, muzzle loaders, this stuff is great. Well guys, I guess that's going to about do it for me. If you got any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section down below, and we will get back to you. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. Again, a link to the Patreon will be in the description down below, as well as our Rumble and our Instagram accounts. Speaking of Rumble, if you guys want to see how I made this stuff, you need to go to Rumble and check it out. The video will be there. But until next time, you guys take it easy. We'll see you in the next one.